Good, happy Thursday morning, April 15, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Thursday morning edition of The Morning Show with Riley King. It's time to rise and shine and get this Thursday off to a good start. So, grab that cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy this Thursday morning edition of The Morning Show with Riley King, where we have a little bit of everything for you in this program. First up, we're going to start off with a look at your COVID-19 dashboard from Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. Let's take a look at that right now. And here is a look at that for all of you right now. Your global cases are 138,391,625. Your U.S. cases are 31,422,380. Your global deaths are 2,975,733. And your U.S. deaths are 564,405. That is a look at your COVID-19 dashboard from Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. Now let's get to your other news. First up, CDC says it needs time to respond to Johnson & Johnson concern. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
More than 100 years ago,
two branches of our family split apart.
But now, Ancestry helped connect us to our ancestors and each other.
find their stories.
At Ancestry.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Wednesday night. And we begin with that breaking headline from the CDC just before we came on the air tonight. An advisory committee late today leaving the temporary pause for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in effect, saying they simply need to know more. After those extremely rare reports of 6 women who suffered severe blood clots, one died, another in the hospital, this temporary halt affecting about 1 in 4 vaccine sites in this country giving the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine. The advisory panel meeting this afternoon adjourning without a clear recommendation yet on how to move forward, leaving that pause in place, saying they will try to meet again in a week to 10 days. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine using similar technology to the AstraZeneca vaccine in Europe. That vaccine has also triggered some concern in Europe over rare blood clots there. At least 19 reported deaths. Tonight, the White House now saying, even without Johnson & Johnson temporarily, that there is more than enough of the other vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, to vaccinate all Americans, to even accelerate vaccinations, they suggested. ABC senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami leading us off tonight with late news from the CDC in Atlanta.
A CDC advisory panel tonight says it needs more time and information to respond to the new concerns about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which means for now, Americans should continue holding off using this brand of the COVID vaccine.
We do not have to arrive at a vote today or a recommendation today. If we need more time to think about this, we can reconvene later this week or this weekend.
A very small number of women who suffered blood clots after getting the shot caused health officials to put a hold on using the drug. Health officials here worry that this potential adverse reaction looks a little too similar to what happened in Europe with the AstraZeneca vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine is made using similar technology as the Johnson & Johnson, and in Europe, 19 people died.
There are some rather strong similarities about this with regard to the time frame following vaccination, particularly importantly, the clinical syndrome of these clots together with low platelets. So there are a lot of similarities there that you just can't miss that.
The scientists are looking for any link between the 6 women who got sick, and they're investigating whether the blood clots were an immune response. All 6 women were between 18 and 48 years old. They got sick within 2 weeks of getting vaccinated. Some of the clots formed in veins of the sinus and prevented blood from draining out of the brain. One woman died. 3 are still hospitalized. The holdup on using the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has had a huge impact on these 7,000 locations where it was the only shot they were giving. 1 out of every 4 vaccine locations in America was only using Johnson & Johnson.
I get why they're doing it out of the abundance of caution, but the statistics were so low for someone like myself to get, the blood clotting they were talking about and all that. I was willing to take the risk anyway.
The race is on to find available shots from Pfizer and Moderna for appointments that are already scheduled.
All the Pfizer and all the Johnson I have, of course, it makes it very hard because I have literally hundreds of doses of Johnson that I can't use.
They're pretty frustrated at this clinic in Los Angeles that's already been struggling to vaccinate underserved communities. Tonight, the Biden administration is saying that there's still more than enough vaccine.
I want to be clear that we have more than enough Pfizer and Moderna vaccine supply to continue or even accelerate the current pace of vaccinations.
All right, Steve Osunsami live at the CDC tonight. And Steve, I know the advisory committee plans to meet again on this. Any idea how soon?
Well, David, this group's next meeting is scheduled for May 5th, but they're hoping they can meet again in a week or so. There was a lot of concern today about making a decision without all the proper information. They're also still watching about 3 million Americans who've recently gotten a Johnson & Johnson vaccine within the last few weeks. They say it's still very possible we could see a few more of these rare cases that concern them. David?
All right, Steve Osunsami leading us off tonight. Steve, thank you.
Hi.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Breaking down defense witness testimony. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
The fighting spirit to me means to never give up. When someone sits in my chair, I see the finished canvas.
For more analysis, we bring in Shauna Lloyd, civil rights attorney with the Cochran firm in Florida. Thanks for coming back on, Ms. Lloyd. We heard that testimony today from Dr. David Fowler, who said that Floyd's cause of death could be classified as undetermined instead of as a homicide. How convincing would you say that those arguments were? And do you think that this battle of the experts over cause of death will serve to confuse the jury or be enough just to plant the seed of reasonable doubt?
Well, let's start with his testimony. I think some of his testimony they were definitely backtracking him on. For instance, the carbon monoxide that he brought up. They then got him to admit that he wasn't even sure whether the car was on, whether it was a hybrid. Those are big things to overlook as an expert when you're trying to determine these types of causes of death. He also admitted that Floyd could have received medical attention even after cardiac arrest, and that could have saved his life. So although his testimony may have been stronger for the defense overall, the state was able to make some serious inroads in his testimony for their side. When the jurors are looking at these expert witnesses, they line them up. They think about the one that they heard, they think about what this one is saying, and they bring common sense into it. So when they hear things that are able to be disputed or someone's able to backtrack him on as an expert, that talks and leads towards the lack of credibility in their mind.
And Dr. Fowler really muddied the waters a bit more by suggesting that the carbon monoxide, as you mentioned, from the squad's car's tailpipe may have contributed to George Floyd's death. Even if that is true, wouldn't that also be Derek Chauvin's fault, or could it help his defense in a meaningful way?
It could help his defense in a meaningful way in the sense that what the state is arguing is his positioning, and with the knee on the neck, that was the actual causation of the death. So what that essentially means is no matter what else happened, this had to actually be the biggest contributing factor to that death. This action needed to have led directly to the death. So that's where the reasonable doubt comes in. And these other theories, should a juror decide that it's a credible theory, they could say that is where I find reasonable doubt.
But when you talk about this idea of the causation, right, that the prosecution needs to prove in this case, they don't have to say that the knee on the neck was the sole reason that he died, correct?
Absolutely. Very right about that, Lindsay. It doesn't have to be the sole, but it does have to be the direct link as to the death. So he may have had other things, but for the knee, he would have survived. then what we're looking at is and should be a guilty verdict according to the law.
As we near the end of this trial, which side would you say seems to have the stronger case, and do you think that it'll be tough for the jury to reach a verdict?
I think right now the prosecution had laid such a solid foundation and the ability to make these inroads in the testimony of the defense experts, weakening their testimony. I think right now the prosecution does have the stronger case. I think the jury's going to be, it's always interesting. They go in there, they deliberate. We don't know how long they'll be in there. And it only takes one, Lindsay. That's what we have to keep remembering, is that one person is all it takes to ensure that this jury doesn't reach a verdict. Because in Minnesota, it does require a unanimous verdict.
And lastly, what potential impact could this latest shooting of Daunte Wright have on the jury and verdict and possible appeal?
There's going to be a lot of impact, I think, as these jurors are hearing this, they're knowing what's going on. It's still going to affect them. Now, the judge is going to instruct them, as they will get these instructions at the end, that nothing outside of what they've heard in the courtroom dealing with this case is supposed to affect their deliberations. But we all know that, with life happening, people are aware. So I think at some point there is a bit of an emotional impact that does happen for jurors.
Attorney Shauna Lloyd, thank you so much for your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Biden announces end to 20-year war in Afghanistan, withdrawing troops. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Don't just take time off.
We turn now to news on U.S. troops in Afghanistan. President Biden today revealing his plan for all U.S. troops to leave Afghanistan by September 11th, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, and what the CIA director said just today about the risk if U.S. troops leave. Here's our senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, tonight.
At Arlington Cemetery tonight, President Biden honoring the lives lost as he announced he's ending the 20-year war in Afghanistan, withdrawing all U.S. troops by this September 11th.
It's time to end America's longest war.
Over the last 2 decades, 2,312 Americans were killed, more than 20,000 wounded, and nearly $825 billion spent.
We delivered justice to bin Laden a decade ago, and we've stayed in Afghanistan for a decade since. Since then, our reasons for remaining in Afghanistan have become increasingly unclear.
On Capitol Hill today, the head of the CIA with a sobering assessment.
When the time comes for the U.S. military to withdraw, the U.S. government's ability to collect and act on threats will diminish. That's simply a fact.
But he also said al-Qaeda, the group behind 9/11, does not have the capacity today to carry out an attack against the U.S.
And Mary Bruce with us live tonight from the White House. And Mary, we noted while we were on the air today that the president was speaking today from the treaty room, the same room where President George W. Bush told the nation nearly 20 years ago we were in Afghanistan. And now 20 years later, President Biden saying we must end this forever war. Mary, President Biden revealing he spoke with former President Bush?
David, the president says he spoke with Bush yesterday to inform him of his decision. He did not say how the former president responded, but Biden stressed that the two of them are absolutely united in their respect and support for the valor and courage of the men and women who have served. David.
All right, Mary Bruce tonight. Mary, thank you. And all.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And we're going to switch gears now, and let's go into weather. And here's a look at your radar for this Thursday. As you can see, we are seeing some snow over here in this part of the United States, and some snow up in Canada, and some rain along Vermont and Albany, New York, and some snow and rain around Michigan as well, and some rain over here off into the waters near New York, and some rain near Alabama and Mississippi as well. And that is a look at your weather across the United States for this Thursday. And let's switch gears now. And we're going to go into a cooking segment. This salmon fillet and cauliflower recipe is a lunchtime game changer. Let's take a look.
Cauliflower rice and salmon fillet recipe. Look at that. Add your cauliflower and your veggies, then add your oils and bring to a fry. Then prepare your salmon with your asparagus and spices. All you have to do now, flip it over and bake. Serve it all with your cauliflower rice. Wow, look at that texture. Perfect for lunch or dinner. Try it out at home and let me know how it goes. Cheers.
Okay, there you go. Have to try that, everyone. A game changer lunchtime recipe. And we're going to switch gears now. Let's go into entertainment news. Colton Underwood reacts. Sorry about that. Wrong story there. Colton Underwood comes out gay. Let's take a listen to that video from Entertainment Tonight.
We've been waiting for this. The chance to help you get ready once again.
Can you tell us what is on your heart that you want to share?
I've ran from myself for a long time. I've hated myself for a long time, and I'm gay.
Colton Underwood is living in his truth for the first time.
Nothing can prepare you for this.
In a pre-taped interview with Robin Roberts, which aired Wednesday on Good Morning America, the former Bachelor star reveals publicly for the first time that he is gay.
I came to terms with that earlier this year and have been processing it. And the next step in all of this was sort of letting people know. Still nervous, but yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
The 29-year-old says that life in quarantine over the past year led him to do some soul searching and to feel comfortable opening up about his sexuality. And he says that his past struggle with his identity led him to, quote, suicidal thoughts.
I would have rather died than say I'm gay. And I think that was sort of my wake-up call. There was a moment in LA that I woke up and I didn't think I was going to wake up. I didn't have the intentions of waking up, and I did. And I think for me, that was like my wake-up call of like, this is your life. Take back control.
Colton adds that he no longer feels that way and that opening up about being gay has led him to a much better place in his life.
I'm emotional, but I'm emotional in like such a good, happy, positive way. I'm like the happiest and healthiest I've ever been in my life, and that means the world to me.
As for appearing on The Bachelor, the former reality star has mixed feelings about his part in the franchise. Colton first competed on the 14th season of The Bachelorette, starring Becca Kufrin, before being announced as the season 23 Bachelor.
Any hesitation on your part about being asked to be the Bachelor?
There probably would have been a little hesitation if I didn't do Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise before, because it finally allowed me to take a step back from those situations, see what I learned, how I've grown since I've been in that, and go from there. So there was zero hesitations, sort of once it was offered.
The former football player's sexuality first came up after he publicly revealed his virginity while dating Becca.
I am a virgin.
Really? At the time, he remembered seeing headlines saying he was gay, closeted, or, quote, doing this for attention.
I do think I could have handled it better. I'll say that.
How so?
I just wish I wouldn't have dragged people into my own mess of figuring out who I was. I genuinely mean that. But I also, at the same time, that I can sit here and say I'm sorry to all of those women. I can also say thank you, because without them, and without the Bachelor franchise, I don't know if this would have ever came out.
And he recalls this moment after finding out he was the Bachelor.
I literally remember praying to God the morning I found out that I was a Bachelor and thanking him for making me straight. I remember that vividly of saying, finally, you're letting me be straight.
And while his Bachelor season didn't end with an engagement, he did end up in a relationship with winner Cassie Randolph. The two dated for a year and a half before their tumultuous breakup last May.
I loved everything about her. I'm sorry for any pain and emotional stress I caused.
Colton also revealed that he has not had a romantic connection with a man yet.
I've never allowed myself to, and it's never been sort of in my cards to let myself get there, and I want to more than anything, and I'm looking for someone who can push me and challenge me in all the great ways.
Since his interview aired, Colton has received a ton of love and support online. In a statement to ET, the executive producers of The Bachelor said that they are, quote, inspired by Colton Underwood's courage to embrace and pursue his authentic self. Bachelor host Chris Harrison broke his social media silence amid his racism scandal to share this photo with Colton and assure he's got his full love and support. Anika and Nicole, former contestants on Colton's season, took to Twitter, Anika writing that she is happy for him, Nicole writing that she is proud of him. Andy Cohen tweeted that Colton is, quote, free now. Lonnie Love wrote, life gets better standing in your truth, while Meghan McCain sent, quote, love, light, support, and deep respect Colton's way.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And thank you for joining us for this Thursday edition of the Morning Show with Riley King. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everyone, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of the Morning Show with Riley King. And see you back here later on today with more news coverage. Goodbye.